It's been 18 months since Apple last updated their professional laptops. In that time, the MacBook has been reimagined, macOS has been renamed, and the iPad has gone pro. So, how does the MacBook Pro respond? By going even faster, thinner, lighter, and brighter than ever before. No surprise there though, it's almost Apple's battle cry at this point. Cinematic color gamut, unified ports, ludicrously fast storage, and a new input paradigm called Touch Bar define the company's vision for the future. But memory and graphics constraints, the lack of legacy ports, and an ultra-flat keyboard threaten to leave behind some customers of the present. This is one of the most controversial updates in recent memory, one that has some saying, "Finally!" and others, seriously? This is the new MacBook Pro. The first thing you'll notice about the new MacBook Pro is how dense it feels. Sure, it's lighter and smaller, MacBook Air level lighter and smaller in fact, and you can carry it around longer and fit it more easily into your bag or onto your tray table. It's also available in silver and space gray now. Sadly, no gold or rose gold like the MacBook, but you can go dark if you want to. Open the lid and there's no classic chime to greet you. It's been replaced by auto boot. So it no longer matters whether your Mac was off or just asleep, and that's terrific. It means you're not staring at a blank screen anymore, fumbling around with the power button to figure out what state it's in. The display on top is super thin. It's lost its glowing Apple logo on the back, but the front is gorgeous. Apple has gone all in on wide color. It feels different on a laptop. It's like a layer of dullness has been wiped away to reveal eye-popping greens and reds, and once you see it, you just never want to go back. About the only thing the MacBook Pro screen still can't do is register touch input, so they're expanding touch in a different way and on a different plane, the Touch Bar, and new for Mac, Touch ID. It's like a long, thin iOS device embedded right above your keyboard, lending you all the security and multi-touch responsiveness you've grown to love on iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch, but now fully integrated into the Mac. Touch ID, which doubles as the power button, works just like you'd expect. The Touch Bar starts off mimicking the escape key and system and media controls of the standard keyboard, but then starts to change and adapt to what you're doing. That's why I started off thinking things like predictive word suggestions would be useless for me. Then I realized English is a terrible language with words and spellings no person should be expected to remember. And when I struggled to remember a word or spelling, I noticed they were right there, suggested for me right on the Touch Bar. The same for shortcuts. Shortcuts suck. Even Adobe and Apple can't keep them consistent across their range of apps. Now I just look at the Touch Bar and the control I want is right there. It's direct manipulation but in an indirect way, and it's trippy. It creates a really interesting new input dynamic where sometimes I have one hand on the Touch Bar and the other on the keyboard, other times one on the Touch Bar and the other on the Force Touch trackpad, which Apple has now made luxuriously big. There's no force touch in the Touch Bar though, which feels like an obvious next step, but there is voiceover for accessibility, and once you get used to where the controls spawn, it's easy enough to throw your fingers in the right direction. The keyboard is a next generation version of the dome and butterfly mechanism introduced with the 12-inch MacBook, and it's divisive. I really don't like clickety-clackety keyboards, and I've grown to quite love the punchy feeling of this new keyboard. So much so that my old MacBook Pro keyboard now feels loosey-goosey. It's a deeply personal thing though, and if it isn't the keyboard for you, Apple's giving you no other option. Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C share a new unified connector. On the plus side, they're incredibly fast, and you never have to worry about which type of cable fits into which type of port, or which side of the connector is up or down. On the minus side, you'll need dongles. So many dongles. I've had to briefly use dongles with every MacBook Pro upgrade since forever, or FireWire, or whatever. I'm fine with it. I can always get rid of them when I no longer need them, but I can't retrofit the new screaming fast port into the old super slow port once I'm done with it. Your mileage and dongle disdain, of course, will vary. While the SD card slot is gone, which is super painful for photo and video professionals everywhere, 3.5mm headphone jack remains. It's not really meant for headphones, those are also going wireless, or so my iPhone 7 tells me, but for audio pros and live music production. There are also brand new speakers. They're loud, they're clear, and like the iPad Pro, they're finally worthy of a company that claims music is in its DNA. At the heart of the new MacBook Pro are Intel Skylake Core i5 or Core i7 processors. They're a little more powerful, but a lot more power efficient than previous generations. Apple and Intel work hard and long, so very, very long lately, to make sure everything from sleep to background updates to battery life is as solid and reliable as possible. But in my tests, the new MacBook Pro never once got so much as warm in my bag. It updated flawlessly overnight and got between 9 and 11 hours of active use depending on the load. I spent most of the last 2 weeks on 8 8GB of RAM, and only the last few days on 16GB. Apple's using macOS memory compression and ludicrously fast SSDs for paging to make up for it. That may not matter for everyone, but I think most people, even higher end pros, will be surprised at just how far they can really go with 16GB on a Mac. I do like that Apple's experimenting though. People hate boredom almost as much as we hate change. It's only by mainstreaming new things, be they a mouse or multi-touch, that we ever get to what's next. This won't be the new MacBook Pro for everyone. If Apple had sold a higher performance, lower battery life, thicker and heavier 15-inch at the end the way they slipped in an entry-level 13-inch at the beginning, no doubt high-end pros wouldn't feel as abandoned as they do right now. Still, it gives some people the Retina Air they've always wanted, and others exactly the MacBook Pro they've been looking for. This includes me, someone who grew up in design and video, who runs BBEdit and Coda, Photos in Photoshop, Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro, who airdrops from iPhone but still connects to a big-ass display on the desk. I'm getting a 13-inch maxed out space gray. Finally. If you're still saying seriously though, if you're a pro who feels left behind, I totally get it. Apple's vision for the future of laptops just isn't for everyone, even if they, and I think it'll be for far more people than ever before, including an entirely new generation of pros.